Okay, in this video we're going to talk about retouching, and I'm going to take you through several basic techniques for retouching. In this image I have already taken several steps and I want to show you what it looked like originally. I'm going to zoom in just so you can see her face a little more. Okay, so we still have a little ways to go. There's still a couple things that we could do to make her face look a little bit softer, to get rid of some of the rough places on her skin, but let me show you what I've done so far so you can see where we're headed. So obviously you can see that we lightened it up with a curve, and we also airbrushed out some of her rough spots on her face. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Also, if you can tell that one of the things that we did is that we got rid of some of the bags under her eye here. Okay, so let's go ahead and start at the beginning so I can take you through several of these steps. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to go back in my history all the way up to the beginning just so you can see what happened. Okay, so this is the very beginning image right here. Okay, and we're going to start to begin this process. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is I want to unlock this layer. So I'm going to double click it and I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to drag this down and copy it because I don't want to mess with my original. I always want to preserve my original in case something happens. So I'm going to work off that copy layer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an adjustment curve. So I'm going to go down to curves, I'm going to click on curves, and I just want to lighten it up a little bit just to make sure it looks as even as it can. So what I'm going to do is grab this arrow up here and I'm going to come over here and you'll see where I'm pointing with my eyedropper and how that correlates to that circle moving on the curve. What I'm doing is I'm looking for an even area in her skin tone. I'm looking for one of the lighter areas, not the brightest area, but kind of a nice mid-tone that's light. So somewhere out in here, okay, it's not too dark, it's not too light, it's kind of an even color. I'm going to click right there, and I want to see how different that is down here. And it is a little different, but it's, somewhat close relatively. So I know that if I affect that area, I'm probably going to be affecting her overall color of her face because her face isn't that different in color. So I'm going to click right here and just lift a tiny bit. I want to be careful because she's already got a really bright highlight on her nose and on her forehead. So I just want to lighten it up just a little. I don't want it to get too bright. I kind of have to watch out for this area right in here. Okay, so from this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and grab this square within a square that says create a new layer and click on that, and I'm going to begin the airbrush process. So what I'm going to need is I'm going to need my eyedrop tool. So I'm going to hit I on my keyboard, or I could go over here and grab that that eyedropper, and I'm going to sample a light area of her skin. Kind of like before, I'm looking for that light area, not the brightest area, but definitely one of the lighter tones. Okay, so I sample that, and I can tell that this is the color it's selected right here that's on top. And now I'm going to grab my brush tool. I'm going to make sure that my mode right here is set to normal, and I am going to lower this. Yeah, I'll keep it around 17 right there, and 8, that's fine. That's fine for now. You should still be able to see a change. So what we're going to do is we are going to just brush over her skin lightly, and you want to make sure that you're on this layer right here, this top layer, and you just begin to paint on that lighter color. And you are eventually going to see a difference. It's going to go slow, especially if you've lowered the opacity and the flow. Just know that eventually you are going to be able to see a difference. And if you get curious what it looks like, what you can do is you can click on this layer and see, you can kind of see a difference in there in the middle of her forehead. So I'm going to keep going with that. And just know that every time you switch to a new area of her face, she's probably going to have a slightly different skin tone, so you'll probably want to create a new layer and label it and go ahead and sample it again and make sure that that color is the lightest color that we need for that area of skin. So you can start to see a pretty big difference in that area of her forehead right there. I'm going to make my brush size smaller, and I'm going to try to get these smaller areas here. So that's the process there with airbrushing. If I wanted to go ahead and do that in the lower area of her face down here, like I said, I would grab my eyedropper and I would click in one of the lighter areas, and I'm also going to create a new layer. I'm going to label this. This is going to be her cheeks, and this one was her forehead. Okay, so I want to work with her cheeks now, so I'm going to click on an area in her cheek. I'm going to grab my brush tool, going to make it a little bit larger, a little more area to cover, and I'm going to continue to brush. Now remember, we don't want to make this too obvious. We want to be really subtle about this. And let's see what we've done so far. So we are able to really blend the area a little bit more. So that does look kind of nice. Okay, so we've made several steps of improvement here, working with airbrushing, working with lightening it up with a curve. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to get rid of the bags under her eyes, and we're going to do some more fine tuning. All right, see you soon.